Disruptive FM, the podcast that talks business in the era of the startup economy. The show Fox Business Network, CNBC, or Bloomberg wouldn't dare to replicate. We talk digital trends, social media technology, disruptive innovation, and digital transformation. Broadcasting from Seattle on the worldwide mobile web. Listen to us weekly. Download the Spreaker application today at the App Store or on Google Play. And follow us on Twitter at Disruptive FM.
Yes, you give us 22 minutes. We talk the startup world where thinking is our commodity. I'm your host, Jeff Colon. Another episode of Disruptive FM, broadcasting from the Emerald City of Seattle, Washington. On this week's episode, we talk about Snapchat. Are they disrupting how content will be served to us moving forward? Facebook as the dominant mobile product. Does hardware even matter anymore? Twitter is about to launch a video service to go head-to-head with YouTube and Facebook. How that platform actually may be the most dominant at the end of the day. And we will take a look at 5 startups that could shake up the world and more in 2015. At Disruptive FM on Twitter or at DJGEOFFE. Would love to hear your feedback. All right, another week and a lot of great activity out there in the startup space and startup economy. May as well start with the big news, which is Snapchat. And I'm sure a lot of people maybe even haven't had a chance to maybe try out Snapchat. Depends on what segment of the population that you might be in. But it is sort of already gone as we've known it. And this is, of course, not saying that in a negative way, but as we know the functionality of it, or if you don't know how the functionality of it is, you can do a quick sort of video that disappears once someone looks at it. And already they've announced that they're going to start to work with content creators in their ecosystem to deliver branded content, full-length content. So they're actually moving beyond sort of these sort of quick snippets. Made an announcement this past week that they're going to be working with AT&T as a sponsor and a number of publishers. Looks like the Daily Mail out of the UK and ESPN. And also the big pivot here is that they're moving and hedging really bets on branded content over that from individuals, which is a big deal. We've known for a very long time, and we've actually seen it, that UGC content has done very, very well on platforms like YouTube, for example. And obviously, that UGC content could be a bet that Snapchat may have gone and said, hey, let's go and do this. But the monetary dollars, the revenue that they're actually looking to build or generate is going to come really more from these larger advertisers and branded publishers. So very interesting that they're already moving in that direction. And I see a lot of fresh young brands tapping into this because the demographic that uses the platform is young. If I was a younger brand or a younger aiming brand, I would be almost putting all of my upcoming marketing spend in this area and maybe pulling back from some other areas. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But Snapchat didn't necessarily have to go that route. I mean, if we think about it, they could have probably just said, hey, look, we're going to do a deal with Facebook a couple months ago. They want to buy us for, I think it was upwards of, and I don't have my notes here, but it may have been upwards of around what they were offering WhatsApp. I think it was in the $15 billion to $17 billion range. And Snapchat said, no, we're not going to do that. And have sort of stuck it out and have actually continued to grow and foster growth and growth in sort of this emerging millennial meets Generation Z demographic that other platforms have not really been able to sort of gain traction in, which advertisers in the past, if we thought about how media had operated and also how income had operated, sort of ignored those younger generations because they figured they don't have any money, they don't have any disposable income. Well, now we know that some younger generations actually do have some disposable income because they put it into things like phone applications, which is the new economy, and not buy things that maybe we had done in the past, like transportation or clothes or other sort of goods and services, because of the fact that there's just much more available to that generation in this sort of new economy, sharing or collaborative economy, as we like to call it. So interesting news for Snapchat. And again, in terms of how, I always sort of like to pivot back to the theme of disruption. Why is this so important? I mean, Snapchat didn't have to go this way. They could have sort of rested on their laurels for a bit. I always find it interesting when companies sort of hedge their bet and take that leap of faith. I think that's what actually moves business a little bit more than it had moved for a long period of time in the last 50 or 60 years with the rise of the corporation. Startups sort of can make up that agility, sort of an oxymoron by saying this process, so to speak, where they can sort of reconfigure what that is every day if they wanted to, that is not tangible sort of in a corporate environment. So it's interesting to see how this is going to work for them. So things to definitely look at in this space, and it's a huge area. We're talking mobile almost every single day when it comes to the startup economy, because so many companies obviously are launching on the back of particular networks, on the back of operating systems, on the back of distribution platforms like the Apple App Store, of course Google Play, all of the different sort of areas where people can download apps, which brings us up to a really interesting conversation that I had with a colleague this past week on an article that was sort of out and about in the ecosystem, which is Hollywood is now generating less money than the application economy, which is fascinating. The app economy is now generating more revenue than Hollywood, which goes back to an article I remember writing on LinkedIn, I believe it was back in the summer, called Disrupt with Californication, in which I said the main power tilt has moved from Southern California to Northern California, in the sense that the app economy, of course, it's being driven all across the globe, but much of it originated in Northern California, and much of the power, I think, rests in Northern California at the moment. Though the thing that we have to actually watch is, will that tip back into Southern California, because of the fact that content is the big emerging area in sort of the new business model. And Hollywood has a number of the skill sets that are there that can create that content, edit it, do sort of the branded content that I think people are looking for in sort of the mobile social environment. So fascinating, though. Didn't think we'd ever sort of see the day where Hollywood has sort of lost its grip on the larger consciousness, so to speak, in terms of the business world. Don't forget to connect with us on Twitter. We're there 365, 24/7 at Disruptive FM, or you can reach out to me on my personal handle at DJ GEOFFE at DJ Jeffy. Glad to continue to talk about all the things that are happening out there in the startup economy. And we do this once a week, 22 minutes. We talk about everything that's going on from Silicon Valley to Silicon Alley to Tel Aviv and beyond. So, talking about mobile and talking about video, we can't go by this week without talking about Twitter for a second. So, the dominant platform for a very long time when it came to video, as we know, was YouTube, which actually was created or founded by Chad Hurley, who graduated from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. A lot of people are always like, where's the Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and is it affiliated with Indiana University or the University of Indiana? No. There's a small town in western Pennsylvania, not far away from Pittsburgh, called Indiana, and it's part of sort of the state system of colleges there. I actually spent some time there. It's cold and snowy most of the year, as is much of western Pennsylvania. But as we know, Google acquired YouTube mainly because they sort of saw the vision of video as the new or online video as to the new advertising space, and of course they are milking that to a T in terms of pre-roll on almost every single video that exists on YouTube now. And of course, Facebook has sort of pivoted and moved into this area now with autoplay videos, much of that really being driven by user-generated content, though this recent move by Snapchat, I think, will actually have them pivot quickly into making more deals with branded publishers, and that will add to their sort of advertising coffers, so to speak, because they'll be able to target that content to users based off of all of the data that they've mined over the years, which I think will be very unique because it's no different than sort of the Netflix or Hulu or Amazon models that have been built up in the entertainment industry. But we can't also not talk about Twitter. Twitter, a little bit slower growth in terms of the social networks that are out there. I think that always gets a lot of people on Wall Street a little worried. Though I always have to sort of take my digs at analysts on Wall Street because I think they don't understand sort of the new imaginative economy that's out there, and that there is the ability actually for some of these companies with quick moves to actually make quicker money than, let's say, a brick and mortar type of company. And Fortune magazine actually talked about this recently in an article on the front cover of their most recent digital issue, which is that there are all these unicorn companies now with billion-dollar valuations that are sort of in this new creative, imaginative economy, all built on the cloud and providing digital services or digital interactivity or engagement. But the big thing that Twitter, I think, when they actually move toward launching their own video solution that we have to pay attention to is the fact that their video will be much hyper-targeted and influential than the other networks. So let's take a look at, or take a step back and think about this for a second. When you go to watch video on YouTube, you're probably finding it a variety of ways. Someone is sending you that link, could be through email, short messaging service, or on a social network. You're clicking on it, you're watching it. Or you could go to YouTube and search for particular videos. As we know, YouTube, number 2 sort of search engine out there. Much of the younger generation, I think, searches right on the platform, especially when they're looking for music and entertainment content. It's probably a better place for them to go than an outright search engine. So we know that people have the ability, or they have this behavior built into them in terms of how they find content on that platform. Facebook, people upload video. If you are connected to them in some respect or they're sponsoring that video, it ends up in your feed and it can autoplay. Obviously very influential. Where Twitter takes it a step above these other two players, however, is, and I'll use a good example, if you have a very influential individual on Twitter, let's use the business world, for example, and Mark Andreessen, and someone sends him a video talking about a new startup that Mark actually is like, wow, I really like what this company's doing. I'm going to share this video that they actually created with others in my feed. Mark is a very influential person in the startup business world, in the venture capital world. All of those people he's connected with have the ability to see that video. They then have the ability to retweet and share that video with others in their interest graph, so to speak. So the way that that information actually moves will move much quicker and at a higher speed than ever before in terms of comparing it to the other platforms. This is where I actually think the value is in Twitter's platform. And I think we've seen Facebook trying to move more toward a real-time platform because they sort of know, wait a minute, if Twitter actually offers that solution, it's not a matter of people searching for video. It's a matter of people actually being influenced by video from the people that they follow. And that can carry very, very far. As we've known from the selfie picture taken at the Oscars last year, that traveled far and wide because Ellen tweeted it out and it was shared everywhere. Now we're moving more into the world of video where that can move much, much quicker. And obviously good content, if it moves at that pace where people are going to be able to discover it based on sort of on their interest graph within a Twitter feed, I think it gives the platform utmost advantage in this area compared to some of the other platforms out there. And it'll be definitely an interesting thing to watch because do they also go and say, let's do some content deals with companies where they are serving up longer form content? Because if we think about it, you're not going to necessarily watch long form content in your feed, but if they're serving it up where you can actually, let's say, sample that content in your feed, then click on another link where it takes you to a server where you can watch that information or watch that content. These are areas that Twitter may be developing, may not be developing, but it's interesting in terms of how we watch them pivot in this area. I'm bullish on that company because I do think it actually holds more influence even if it doesn't have as many users worldwide based on its mobile user interface and also based on the fact that it has the ability to really allow people to talk back and forth on the platform without them necessarily being connected. So you can reach out to anybody who happens to be on the platform by just saying, hey, I have a question for you. And of course, if they respond, they respond. If they don't, they don't. But it's like being in a large room where you have the ability to talk to any of those people. So I'm much more bullish on some of those open platforms than the closed platforms because as we've seen in the past, open source has the ability to spread more information, more collaboration, and more content in ways that closed networks have not been able to. Earnings report this past week from Facebook. Really, really large. Facebook definitely is the dominant mobile product at the moment. My most recent piece on LinkedIn titled, Forget Your Phone Hardware, Facebook is the dominant mobile product. And again, we have to think about what products mean in this day and age of digital transformation and reimagination. Products aren't necessarily the physical or the tangible that you can hold in your hand when it comes to speaking about mobile. A lot of it is also the software, the applications that you have on that hardware. So in some respects, even though some people might say, hey, Apple has the largest mobile revenue share, Samsung has a large mobile revenue share, They may be missing the point because of the fact that even though people owned that hardware, a large majority of people that are using that hardware are using a particular application called Facebook on that hardware, which allows it to be sort of the dominant mobile product. And not just one product, but 4. The top 4 mobile applications downloaded in 2014 were the main Facebook app, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram. And when we extend that top 10 list, it shows something very interesting. The remaining 6 were Skype, CleanMaster, Viber, Line, Twitter, and Snapchat. None of those applications are owned or developed by Apple or Google. They're all third parties building on the back end of operating systems. But we have to look at them as mobile players because many people, over 500 million now, are accessing those products strictly from mobile. So if you're spending the majority of your time, let's say, on a mobile device, and most of it is on one of these apps, is the hardware the winner, or is it just a conduit or a shell to serve up the software? So I'd love to hear your feedback on that. 5 startups we need to be watching this year. And there's a lot of really interesting ones out there, but we'll name them here and you can check them out. Definitely do a Bing search for them. Robinhood. It is a mobile-first stock trading app that's trying to make investing more accessible by eliminating online brokerage commissions, the fees most firms charge for buying or selling stock on your behalf. People like free. Freemium works. Chris Anderson wrote all about it in his book, and they're trying to do that here now. We've heard about this company a couple of years ago, Rent the Runway, dress rental startup that primarily operates online. And it has about 5 million users in its community. And they have now partnered with over 270 designers. So designers now obviously see this is a way for people to sample something that might actually lead to long-term sales. Massdrop is a sort of way to bring like-minded product aficionados together to chat, vote, and qualify for group discounts on items such as headphones, keyboards, speakers, straight from the manufacturer. And they're going to be expanding, moving into sort of areas where they work with more crowdfunding. And they've worked with a lot of product specialists in terms of being able to poll members on what they think about product design and user experience, which is a way for those companies to actually improve their products. And then a wearable company to keep a lookout for, Spire. It is a small wearable activity tracking device that uses a patent-pending sensor to help monitor stress by tracking breathing and body movement patterns. This is a huge area. Everything now is about how do you track body movement? Are you standing enough? Are you walking enough? Are you sleeping enough? So this is another company to sort of add to the mix. And then the other fifth startup to watch on our top 5 startups of the week, Navdi. And Navdi is attempting to solve the distracted driver problem. And we see it a lot in California and here in Washington State, by moving car and mobile app info away from clunky dashboards or cell screens and onto simple interfaces that seem like they're floating outside the windshield. So you can actually continue to look at the road in front of you while looking at information like maps or talking to mom or seeing information in front of you. Big anticipated product has already received about $2.4 million in terms of pre-orders. The device is going to run about $299, which is very interesting. Top 5 startups of the week. Again, you give us 22 minutes. We talk about the startup world. Next week, We're back with more information on what's happening out there in the world of mobile, our top 5 startups to watch, and what is the next step for open source.
Disruptive FM, the podcast that talks business in the era of the startup economy. The show Fox Business Network, CNBC, or Bloomberg wouldn't dare to replicate. We talk digital trends, social media technology, disruptive innovation, and digital transformation. Broadcasting from Seattle on the World Wide Mobile Web. Listen to us weekly. Download the Spreaker application today at the App Store or on Google Play. And follow us on Twitter at Disruptive FM.